On today's Outside of the Box, Christine chats with a few of the competitors from this year's NHRL finals.
There was a wall there at Norwalk where it felt like, okay, I can't get past round of 8 at an open event. It's going to be very tough at finals.
Obviously, I killed him pretty good in October. I have probably rewatched that fight more than anyone else has. Understandably, I hope.
So going into this event, I'd done a lot of SCAR events leading up to it, and that was kind of my preparation. But I really had no idea how I was going to do at this event. I was like, we've had a lot of fights in SoCal, we should do at least okay. But I wasn't going in just oh, we're going to win the whole thing,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And it's the final episode of Outside of the Box for the year. And what better thing to talk about than NHRL finals for this episode? It was quite a day, lots of just really amazing, exciting fights. And I decided to go the path of having a conversation with those that got to the final fight and, didn't end up winning in the end, but I think had really amazing days and just really great stories to tell about getting there. So my first guest for this episode is Myles Sim to talk about Coldsnap. So welcome to the show.
Hey, Christine. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I've wanted to actually, have you on to talk about your robots specifically for a while because, I'm a big fan. Obviously, Coldsnap, really good, given the performance at finals. And of course, I'm a big fan of your other robot, Chaos Blitz, who has had some really good showings this year. But let's talk about Coldsnap in particular. So, funny enough, I was going to have you on, for my finals preview. We had talked about that and it just didn't end up working out scheduling wise. So since I didn't get to talk to you about it then, how were you feeling about Coldsnap going into finals? Based on its performance this year and everything else?
It was, I don't know, I had some hope. I was trying to tamper expectations. It has historically done very well outside of NHRL. I'm very thankful and very proud of the fact that outside of NHRL, it does pretty well. But I went to Norwalk 3 times this year, ended up being knocked out of the round of 8 every single time. So I got qualified out of having the qualification spots be dropped down past top 4, right? So I on the one hand, I knew that the bot had potential, right? Outside of Norwalk, it's done well, so on and so forth. But there was a wall there at Norwalk where it felt like, okay, I can't get past round of 8 at an open event. It's going to be very tough at finals, given how many excellent competitors there were there.
Oh yeah. It's final. So I think any NHRL event you're going to get a lot of really good robots, but this is obviously the best of the best. And so I can imagine that would be, challenging kind of thinking through that. Like you said, it had done really well other places. Sometimes NHRL can be a tough nut to crack. But you clearly did pretty good in this situation. Now, looking even at the, initial qualifying rounds of finals, you had some pretty tough ones. I believe your first opponent was Elytra, and Elytra is me being from the Midwest. I'm very familiar with that robot and it is a killer. How did you manage that one? Because I think that I would have been very scared for that fight.
I was very hesitant. The first fight of the day is always nerve-wracking, and Tristan with Elytra, amazing competitor, amazing bot, has done so well. I mean, it got second in October, only losing out to Jelly Baby, which we'll talk about in a moment. So like I was very hesitant going up against Elytra. It was actually a rematch. Coldsnap and Elytra had fought at Coldsnap's first event in May of 2024. So this was going to be interesting to see, like, okay, we both have upgraded and like we've had a year and a half of development since then. How is it going to fare? And to be honest, I got fairly lucky. Tristan was having issues with brownouts all day. He would, after a hard hit, he'd brown out for like maybe 1 or 2 seconds. So I wish we would have had. I wish that issue may not have been there, but that kind of helped make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you hate to see it, but at the same time, anytime your opponent has any little issue, that's gonna typically give you an advantage. And clearly you were able to take that advantage. And yes, you mentioned Jelly Baby, and again, it's like, so Jelly Baby obviously isn't a robot that people fear because it's going to damage them. They fear it because it's pretty much unkillable and very difficult to fight because Paige is such an amazing driver. So what was your strategy for that? Because a lot of people clearly like just haven't been able to figure it out.
It was so it was actually funny. Coldsnap and Elytra fought first round. And whoever won that was going to fight Jelly Baby. No matter what was going to happen, it was going to be a rematch from October of this year. I had fought Jelly Baby back in October, round of 8, and they ended up knocking me out. And I was able to learn a lot from that fight. I was able to learn that a lot of the stuff that I had relied on, a lot of the stuff that Coldsnap had relied on, just wouldn't work against Jelly Baby. Energy just does not matter. Pure blunt force energy just does not matter against them. And I had a couple of months to figure out a different plan, right? Figure out a different way to fight them. So going into that fight, I had developed a blade that had a sharpened tip to it. It had negative rake to prevent losing tip speed if they pushed me up against the wall or if they tried to slow me down with their forks. And also had a new finger fork. It's a very long fork off of one of the side pods. Between all of those different things, I was able to keep my tip speed up. I was able to get under them a few times. I was able to prevent them from controlling the fight as much as they did last time. And all those factors just kind of combined together. It still went to a JD, but I was able to do just enough damage and prevent them from controlling the fight so much. I was able to win a JD on that one.
Yeah, sometimes that's what you got to do against a robot like that. It's so funny because, looking at the fights that you had, I mean, like, not that anybody had an easy schedule, but you had a lot of just really challenging and different robots that you had to fight. And when it comes to that rock, paper, scissors game, if you're fighting a lot of different things and not just a lot of the same thing, it makes it that much more challenging. So of course, one of those robots that is, so not necessarily completely unique, because there are obviously similar like Torque Walker robots, but Monkfish is a pretty unique robot. You don't see a lot of ones like that. Probably, you're familiar with Rachel and Remy from participating in Midwest competitions and things like that, and that is one heck of a robot. Managed to get a JD. I always like to ask, like, what's the thought process going into fighting a robot like Monkfish? Because I mean, it's hard for me to conceptualize what's the best thing to do here.
So Monkfish, again, it was funny. Monkfish was also a rematch. I had fought Rachel with Monkfish back in a Tennessee event in August of last year, and absolutely got smoked. They took out both shuffler pods. They took out the weapon pulling. But I was able to learn from that loss. Coldsnap now had a steel nose. I knew how Monkfish could win the fight. I knew what their win condition was, which was to sweep out my feet from underneath me. So I took that and applied it to this fight. I needed to make sure that I stayed squared up with them and not let their blade hit my shuffle pods. During the fight, it kind of worked out, but it was the engagements were kind of neutral. at one point I got flipped upside down. At that point, things really, really changed. I had debated whether to start right side up with the blade low or the blade high. The blade high was riskier in my opinion, but that made the difference. I was able to get so many center mass shots to Monkfish, and I ended up piercing their battery, taking out 2 of their 6 cells, and that really helped kind of solidify things. Actually, Rachel was very, very kind and gave me the Monkfish frame here. Just this cut right down the middle of where the blade impacted things. This is an amazing trophy, and I'm very thankful that they let me keep this.
That is amazing. Honestly, one of the cooler pieces that I've ever seen somebody get. So that's really, really awesome. Yeah. So, you went from that fight to, again, another completely different type of robot in Strike Point. Which, I think that Strike Point is a robot that it seems like there's been a lot of iteration on it. And it obviously is, improved over time and things like that. Scary robot to fight again. But for that one, you actually got a tap out. And I don't know, maybe to me, it's just with a robot like that, you almost either you're going to destroy the other person or they're going to destroy you. Like there's not really much in between.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This was round of 8, so this was mentally, psychologically, there was a lot of pressure because this is where I had hit a wall at every other single event. So this was a very stressful match going into it. And Sean Becker with Strike Point, like it is a work of art, just a mechanical work of art. And you're right, it's one of those matchups where it's either going to go one way or the other. There's not going to be an in between to a judge's decision. Either they're going to hit me from above, take out a battery, a motor, just something that debilitates Coldsnap, or opposite, which is what ended up happening. I was able to get around behind them, take out their shuffler, sweep them out from below, and end the fight that way. It would have been really difficult to have a middle ground there.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing fight. Absolutely incredible machine. Great fight.
Yeah, definitely. Not that the pressure really got any better from there because you're about to fight a previous champion and repeater that is, I think multi-bots are a challenge no matter what. But when you have 2 just really strong builders and drivers operating each of these robots and they work so well together, it's a big challenge. I don't think that, everybody that hasn't built or competed realizes the difference in fighting 2 robots, even though they're both a little bit smaller versus just one. I unfortunately know about that. It's not a great time. So, with the added pressure of like the pedigree of what that robot has done, yes, you got over the hump of like getting past the top 8, but that was certainly a mountain to climb.
Yeah, no doubt. Although, to be honest, after getting past round of 8, I had already won the day. In me, like that was such an emotional victory for me that I was past this point at this fight. I was, a little bit anxious, but still I was kind of chilling compared to before. I'd fought Repeater, Brian and Peter with a Repeater back in January. But that was a completely different robot, like many iterations, and they've won a world championship since then. The fight, I felt like the fight we'd be able to see what was going to happen after the first impact. How was their wedge and weapon combination going to hold up against the undercutter of Coldsnap? How well was it going to deflect the weapon? How well was the beater going to hold up to it? The first impact, I think I got a really lucky hit on the red side of Repeater, launched them across the cage, and that gave me a good solid, 15 to 20 seconds where it was just me and the blue side sparring. And that they weren't really able to do the teamwork aspect of Repeater past that point, because it just went from one side being out for some reason and then the other side being out for some reason. So it multi-bot, it becomes more difficult when like only one of them is active at a time. But yeah, that was a fun fight, and it was so cool just being able to knock out the beater out of one of the Repeater halves. That great fight. Brian and Peter, great competitors, amazing bot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That put you in the finals versus Pine Victus, and they talked a lot about the fact that this was a rematch. But there was just so much interesting about that fight for me because, I mean, Pine Victus is an amazing, incredible robot. But when I was hearing a lot of conversations before finals, it wasn't a robot that came up a lot as people saying this is the one that's going to win it all, and they had actually lost to Repeater in the earlier rounds, and you had just beat Repeater. So was it one of those things where you had to kind of weigh, well, this is how this fight went with them in the past, but yes, they just lost to this robot that I just beat? Like, what was kind of going on psychologically for you before you got into that fight?
To be honest, it's hard at an event to keep track of like what every competitor is doing. I didn't know that they had lost to Repeater earlier that day, so that was news to me. But as far as like going into the fight, we had fought twice. We had fought twice at NHRL that year. One time on stream in February, where he beat me, and then one time off stream in May, where I beat him. So we were 1-1 going into that fight. We were both familiar with each other. We were both fought one another. We had both improved our bots from the prior time. Pine Victus, I think the reason people weren't really talking about him as much is because it's a bit difficult to keep up with things that happen outside of Norwalk when you're at Norwalk, right? There are bots that compete a lot and they show performance outside of Norwalk, and if it's not shown on prime time or the stream, they can kind of fly under the radar, and that is absolutely what happened here. Anybody who was keeping track of what Alex was doing with Pine Victus knew the work that he was putting into it, knew the improvements. So I wasn't surprised to see him there. Going into the fight, I was just ready to take some hits, get some hits. The day I had an amazing day. I was loving being there. So win or lose, I just was hoping to put on a good fight, and I think we managed to do that.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think that it was a super entertaining fight. I mean, it's what you want to see from a 3-pound final, for sure. And, both robots exchanging hits back and forth, and, I think two very deserving bots to be in the final. So it was exciting to see. Still, like you said, a great day. I mean, yes, everybody would love to win the bread in the end, but I don't think that anybody can hate like making it all the way to finals and just having a really successful run in that regard. Now, that being said, the year is kind of coming to a close. What does 2026 look like for you and for Coldsnap?
So at the moment, I am getting ready for my to go to Texas for the 15th event I'll have competed at this year. I am a little bit drained, but I am ready to get back into CAD for Coldsnap. After that performance, I think it deserves to have one more shot at it. It's a shuffler, and the shuffler bonus is kind of on rocky ground right now, so don't really know how much longer we have at it, but after that I want to see what I can do with the design. This is still kind of, I consider it V1. Everything, I designed the platform like at the very beginning, and everything has been more or less band-aids on top of that, just to like fixing problems that pop up instead of changing things kind of fundamentally. So I really want to try out and implement some things, change up a couple of things, just very small changes to improve little issues here and there. But Yeah, well, I'm going to. It's definitely coming back to Norwalk.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm sure people will be excited about that. And I would be like remiss if I didn't ask about Chaos Blitz for next year because I mean when you have one really good robot, that's great. But I think when you have two really good robots, that's even better. And this is one that a lot of people are really excited about it. So I'm just curious to hear what the plans are for that in the new year.
So Chaos Blitz, I want to basically have that one to be the bot that I run outside of Norwalk. Coldsnap to take to Norwalk to kind of defend our. I don't know. Let's see if we can get the Brett next year. Let's see what we can do there. After maybe next year, or when the shuffler bonus is gone, Coldsnap can't run there anymore. I'll take let me take Chaos Blitz there then, and improve that all next year, and then bring it into Norwalk in 2027.
Hey, I mean, that sounds like a pretty good plan to me. Well, I definitely see a lot more podiums and hopefully more in your future with robots in 2026. So really exciting stuff. Looking forward to it. And there's more to come in this episode, talking 12s and 30s. So please stay tuned and yeah, just check out the rest of the episode. All right, we are back on this finals recap, and I am here with the business cat himself, as the Zoom suggests, Brendan Steele to talk about Slam Plans Day at finals. So, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I really felt that the journey for Slam Plan during finals was super interesting, and I wanted to chat with you about the day. I think the most interesting part is I'm not sure that your day started the way that you anticipated, in the sense of the fight with the Xenomorph. That was honestly one of my favorite matches of the entire day. I think it was just crazy and unexpected. I guess my first question to you is, was it unexpected for you, or, did you think that was a possibility?
Well, so David and I are good friends outside of the arena. I'm the one who actually got him into all of the robotic stuff because he was there at Kent State um, when we went to Norwalk for the first time, 3.5 years ago at this point, with Big Ish. So that got him hooked immediately. And so he's built his own 12 pound immediately after that. Kilojoule, long live the king. Um, but after a while, he got bored of that. And so he made Xenomorph, just a nasty vert, emulsifier, synth 12 inspired. And of course, it's one of those big spinners that can reach the frame. And I, we were both there in October. We sized up on the pit table just to see who would hit who first. And it was looking like I would hit him first, no matter what. But if the blade ever stops, then he can hit me. So I knew it was going to be a painful match. So I had bottom armor, extra bottom armor for that. It seemed to work mostly okay, but not for very long. So I knew it was going to be a painful match. I was actually kind of hoping for Caldera 12 again, and I was there cage side for that fight as well, when David beat him, and I knew it was going to be fun, and I had fun. So I wasn't upset at all. No.
That's the important thing. Is as long as it's fun. Yeah, I mean, it was certainly I enjoyed it. I thought that it was great. And it was one of those things where, I think early in the day, Xenomorph just really had it dialed in. It made the bracket, didn't go much further than that. But you obviously were able to get into the bracket as well. And I mean, honestly, like I think you had a decently challenging day because your next fight was against Seaver. Now, I don't necessarily know that that's the best matchup for Matt, but Seaver is still was looking pretty good early in the day. It has definitely looked good at other competitions and things like that. But obviously the shoe was on the other foot in this situation, and you ended up getting him to tap out. So I want to talk through that fight a bit.
Mhm. I will say, I think there was actually one other fight in between that, because I did lose the first fight, so I had to go to the redemption rounds, I think.
Yeah,
Some
so you did
I
fight
fought
Budget Boy.
Budget Boy, yeah, 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 and that was a fun fight too. Um, I think that was the first time I ever fought MIT, probably. It was, yeah, I'm thrilled about that one as well. But to your point about Sievert, obviously I killed him pretty good in October. I have probably rewatched that fight more than anyone else has. Understandably, I hope. It is my comfort video. And yeah, Matt told me before the fight he just wanted a longer fight because it was so short the last time. Um, I don't think he meant 3 seconds longer though. I think he wanted a bit longer than that. But yeah, it was a quick tap out. His weapon ESC went up in flames, I think, and so it's just not worth continuing the fight. So it was just another quick tap out.
Yeah, definitely an easy one for Slam Plan in that situation. Now the next fight was against Full Court, and I think that's, kind of an interesting fight just because Full Court, much like Slam Plan, is a very difficult robot for most people to fight because they struggle to know what to do against it, but for obviously very different reasons. Full Court notoriously difficult to damage, to hit, anything like that. You clearly didn't have, as much of an issue as most do with that robot. Tell me what you felt was, successful for you and working for you against them.
Well, I know Ricky said during the commentary of the fight that our team's very much about not changing anything because you never know what you're going to change that did work that will now no longer work because you changed it. So last year at Champs, I tried out these anti-bike rack wheels, so to speak. I wasn't fighting someone who had a bike rack, but I wanted to try them out. They're basically like the wheels that Wumbo ran for a while, which were just like little spikes going all the way across. Just they're just empty spokes, basically, which allows you to climb over stuff and slot stuff into the path of the blade. But they drove terribly, and I didn't know that until that fight, and I ended up losing that fight to Creature. So this year, I decided not to change much, but we did cut a slot in each wheel to effectively do the same thing. So instead of having multiple slots, it's just a single slot across the entire wheel, which means your wheel will skip across any plows until it catches in that slot, and then it'll hook in and climb over. And that worked fantastically. It took quite a bit of driving and flailing around to achieve that, though, because the plow was so much higher on full court. And it was funny as well. This is the most amount of gaming in the pits I've ever seen for one of my fights, because Coleman had an entirely separate second plow configured differently. It was almost the original size plow, but it had like some steel bars strapped to it and some other big like pontoon spikes poking up. So they were trying to get in our heads before the fight, which was very, very entertaining. But then the suitcases of plastic started showing up, and this plow started materializing in front of us. So it was just really fun to watch. I hold no ill will against Coleman or their team for this. This is honestly hilarious, and we did some of our own gaming back towards them as well. Because while we cut the slots in the wheels, we took the pieces that had been cut out and put them back in, so it looked like it was a continuous wheel. And we got the clear with the EOs and everything, so it wasn't like cheating or anything. But we weighed with them off and then put them back on for memes. And then as soon as we got to the arena, we plonked them right off. So it was kind of like, oh, you didn't see this before? It's been here the whole time. And then
Sometimes
yeah.
those mind games can be entertaining, especially when everybody's kind of in on it. Which is what
Mhm.
it sounds like for sure. Yeah, so judge's decision win there. Your next opponent in the final four, the semifinal round, was Steggy. And, Gator Robotics has been doing a lot. I know Steggy has a couple of different configurations and things like that. And, I mean, John had, a pretty good day up to that point. But, I think everybody tries to go in and has their plan for the slam, and it didn't quite work out for Steggy. But if you want to talk about that fight.
Yeah, so I actually hadn't seen any of Steggy's fights the entire day until we were fighting. I actually don't even know how many configurations he has. I think it's just the drum and the undercutter. Understandably, they were working on the undercutter because horizontal spinners tend to shred the wheels. But I don't know. I was just watching them get ready. I knew their blade diameter was pretty small even for the undercutter. And like us, they tend to not change much. So they didn't have any wacky configuration, which I respect. And yeah, it was much like Buzzkill. I've seen that type of blade get plinked off the robot super easy when it's upside down. And they decided to start upside down, which I mean, no one really expects a huge to be good at uppercutting blades like that. But when you put it 3 inches in the air, it can. And I plinked the blade right off. And if you watch some of the Brett Zone footage, you can actually see, I think it slices one of the lights on the ceiling when the blade hits way up there. And it actually tilts the entire light bar down or up or one of the other directions. It just completely messed with it. So that was kind of funny to see. And then yeah, the little washer under the blade just kept spinning like a frisbee across the arena as well. It was insane.
Yeah, it's never a great day when the whole weapon comes off for someone, unfortunately. At least not for that fight was not a good end to the day. Good for you, being able to get that win and then moving ahead to finals. Now, when you look at the final match, I think that anybody who was making predictions, obviously, I think for most people, Slam Plan, people were feeling was going to at least get to the finals, and Promheta was certainly in that conversation because when you look at just the entirety of the year that Zach Knight has had across multiple robots of his. I mean, he's been pretty lights out in many competitions. What were your thoughts going into the fight, and how do you feel that it went? Would you have done anything differently looking back on it? Anything like that?
So I know Zach had been working on the anti big wheel configuration for a while. Even right after the October event, he said he had parts on order because I killed Procyon, which was Angel's copy of Promheta. And they tried a little different blade for that, but it didn't really work. So he's like, all right, let's make the big vert. And I knew and watched it take down Grandeur in November. And then I know he got, I think it was huge on December in the same day. So I knew it was potent, but I still had confidence because I felt I had the driving ability to not let him hit the frame directly. But it's one of those things where I think it's just a coin flip. I had as much bottom armor as I could with the weight limit. I was right at 11.98 pounds, I think, for that fight. And I only had enough weight for a single strip of Tegris on the right half of the body that was about maybe an inch deep. So there wasn't much armor there. It was the same amount that I had for Xenomorph, which also got obliterated. And just went for it. And well, my frame split in half. So yeah, it was a lot of damage, but I did just today actually put the spare frame on that side and put a new blade on and fired it up, and everything works. So there was no, game ending electric damage, whatever. It was just frame damage. So I'm thrilled about that, but clearly there is room to improve.
Yeah, that's tends to be the name of the game, but I think that, for most people anyways, it pushes you to kind of think through that problem and then make sure that it's solved for next time, which, speaking of, have you thought about 2026 at all and what that's going to look like for you?
Well, aside from fixing up what damage there was, um, right now Slam Plan is good to run another event immediately. I do need to order a spare drive battery because the safety crew kind of yoinked the one that fell out in the final, and I never got it back. So I'll need to get more of that. But for the most part, it's good to just run another event. But I think I'm going to take a well-earned break for a little bit and decompress from the year, even though I only did a couple events. It takes a lot more out of me than most would think, I feel. And so I'm going to chill out for a bit, maybe do some grudges here or there, volunteer at some local events or something like that, and take it easy. But I do have some ideas for the frame on Slam Plan. I don't think it's going to be seen the same way as it has been for the next main revision. Even though I could run it again, I probably will. But I do want to make a new frame that is stronger, can actually take the hits that it saw. I've got a buddy who really wants to do some welding, so it's probably going to be a combination of welding as well as sheet metal forming. I just set up my press brake kit for my hydraulic press at home, so I can make some angle brackets and stuff like that. I could make a crazy frame design if I really wanted to, but there's a lot of R&D there that I haven't worked through yet, and of course I just want to take a break. So I think that's my main goal here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody should do that. There's some people that don't, and I guess that's fine. But yeah, I think it's good for everybody to take a little bit of a break, especially at such a high level of competition.
Right. And
Well,
it's like I don't have anything to prove anymore. I've done it all. I've destroyed all the opponents I wanted to destroy. Well, except for maybe JMO. I think JMO needs to get slammed a little bit, but maybe next year. Yeah, there's just I think it's peaked, and I think everyone knows that as well. Obviously, when have only done first place finishes with the robot for a while, there's nowhere to go but down. So it was interesting to see second place both times. One because of a stupid issue, and the other because I got my ass handed to me. That's fine. But yeah, I think it's peaked.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but I guess that's a good problem to have.
Indeed,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing what Slam Plan does after you take your deserved break. And looking forward into 2026. But for this episode, we still have to talk about the 30 pounds. So we will be doing that shortly. So if you're watching this, please stay tuned. And there is more on this episode. So thank you. All right, we are back for the last segment of this NHRL finals recap, talking about championships and a bot that, I wasn't super surprised to see there in the end was Lil Lash, just given how good of a bot Whiplash is. So I have Matt here to talk about finals. So welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a while. I'm excited to talk about our run.
Yes. Actually, the last time that I talked to you was, I think, talking before the debut of Little
Yeah.
Lash at NHRL earlier this year. So, that was obviously exciting. Did well enough to make it to finals, and you had, quite an interesting day.
Mhm.
Almost got there. I mean, you took down the titan of, the 30 pounders, and we'll talk about that later. But first, we'll get into the earlier matches of the day. And interestingly
Yeah.
enough, I mean, it wasn't a clean sweep for you. You
No.
had waddles at the very beginning of the day,
Mhm.
which I think can, always be a challenging bot for a lot of people. And
Mhm.
you didn't end up winning that one. So let's talk
No.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, even like going back earlier, like our event we qualified, we only had 3 fights, and 2 of which were against the same opponent, Anxiety. And in the finals match, like I had an electronics issue and the robot just died. So being like at that initial event, I really only had 2 fights. So my like experience at NHRL with Little Lash was like very minimal. So like going into this event, I'd done a lot of SCAR events leading up to it, and that was kind of my preparation. But I really had no idea how I was going to do at this event. I was like, we've had a lot of fights in SoCal, like we should do at least okay. But like I wasn't going in just like, oh, we're gonna win the whole thing, you know? But uh but yeah, our first fight was against oh yeah, it was against Makabot. It's like a 4-wheel drive. I'm a beater bar. And that's like, I mean, just look at Whiplash. Most of our losses are against 4-wheeled verts. If you've watched BattleBots, I'd say 80% of them are against 4-wheeled verts. So this is just like on paper a pretty poor matchup for us. But yeah, I think in the very beginning, the like spinner wouldn't spin up, which was crazy because like we've done I think 3 SCAR events leading up to this, and I never had this issue. Nothing had changed. All the ESC settings and stuff remained exactly the same. And in the Makaba fight, it just doesn't spin up. So I'm just like, all right, well, let's not panic. I'm just gonna try to drive around him and flip him. So I flipped him over, and when I flip him, he lands on top of me, and his beater bar totally like demolishes one of my lifter uprights. So I flipped him on top of myself and damaged myself. So he's upside down with a fully functioning robot, and I'm right side up, and my lifter can't go back down because the uprights are so messed up. So I have no spinner, I have no lifter in round one, and my opponent, all he needs to do is self right, and he basically will have his way with us and we'll be done for. So I rammed him into the wall, and I saw he was stuck in the wall, and I was just like, if he gets down, like we are 100% losing this match. So a little bit of foreshadowing, I drove into the house spot in round one, and I was like, wait a second, we just pinned the house spot. I was like, I didn't realize we can do that. And I'm just like, there's no rule against this, so I'm just gonna sit here and we're gonna take this win because if he gets down, we are done for. So yeah, round one, a little bit of foreshadowing there, but it was by no means a super clean win. We took a lot of damage and had to get real scrappy to pull that out. So then
Yeah.
yeah, and then going into round two against Waddles, that fight again, like I changed some ESC settings, adjusted some stuff, and the spinner like wasn't spinning up for some reason. I'm still not sure what it was. And I literally just got like distracted and that the robot wasn't working right. And in just like a moment of weakness, I guess, kind of took my eye off the ball and he got to the side and took us out. So the Waddles match, our first loss of the event was pure driving error. It was like 100% just driving error is what lost the match. So had I not done that, I still don't know if we would have won. We don't know until we fight again. But yeah, that I honestly was like, if I can fix the robot after this, like I think we're still in good shape because we didn't lose because we were the worst robot. We lost because I like royally screwed up. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's how it goes sometimes. That is absolutely how it goes sometimes. Even for the most experienced people,
yeah,
which I'm sure that was difficult because then having to fight Vorion and Brandon is very good and has iterated on that robot and really all of his robots quite a bit. And tell me about how you got through that fight because when you're in the qualifying, you never want to put yourself in that bubble position where it's like you
no.
have to win this fight or you're not going into the bracket.
Yeah, so I mean, given our first fights, like we're 1-1, both of them pretty rough matches. I was just like, well, first, Waddles did a whole lot of damage to the robot. Everything was bent out of shape. I had to replace some chassis pieces. Our base plate was all messed up, and I didn't have like a spare base plate, so I ended up having to like stack washers and things to make things align properly, which is something you don't want to be doing. But kind of in the nick of time, the robot drove well in the test box. I got the spinner going again. And before Vorion was like the first fight where everything kind of worked. Everything worked properly for Vorion. So, but yeah, Vorion is a very tough opponent. I mean, I think Vorion and Phenomenon are more or less the exact same robot, and they have some minor differences. But I think one of them has a dumpster. I don't remember which. Brandon is a Norwalk regular. He qualified with 2 robots, so I think that says a lot right there. Um, but yeah, I was just like, I'm just gonna try to drive really well, and if I do that and can survive, maybe we'll win. And luckily for me, in the very beginning, he showed like a kind of little moment of weakness and either had some drive trouble or got stuck on the floor at some point. Like I was kind of circling him and he was facing me, and I saw he got stuck or couldn't move right or something. And in that very moment, I'm like, here's my chance. So I got to his side, flipped him over, and his disc kind of shot him straight into the wall, and he ended up stuck on the bumper. So while he was up there, kind of NHRL is the arena is very good for Little Lash because a lot of people get stuck on the wall, and Whiplash and Little Lash, our thing is kind of lifting people onto the wall. So if I can lift someone onto the wall and they're stuck up there, whether they're calling the house spot or they're trying to get down themselves, that kind of tees them up where I can kind of do the hammer saw move and get some shots on them while they're up there trying to get down. So that worked out kind of perfect. Like while he was up there trying to climb back down, I kind of took out his self-riding arm with the spinner and didn't really do much damage beyond that. But I think the house spot was not able to get the unstick. I think it actually got stuck on Vorion, and then they just got counted out. So yeah, that was definitely much cleaner than the first 2 fights, and was kind of the exact type of match we want to have. That was like executed pretty perfectly, in my opinion, that match.
Yeah, it's good to have a fight like that, I think, to bounce back from, like you said, 2 rough ones. And it's a
Yeah,
good like momentum going into the bracket. And I think you definitely needed it given the opponents
yeah,
that you would be going up against in the
yeah.
bracket. Because first round you had Red Storm and Kevin
Oh yeah.
is just insane in a good way, but
Yeah,
like he plays that game of doing stuff to the house spot and things like that, and he's
yes.
always kind of full send, like let whatever
Mhm.
happens happen. You've obviously faced him before in other situations, so
I've actually never fought him before
really.
this. Never, not even once. So that's why I was really excited about this match. And like part of it is like all the other fights, I pretty much fought other than Chonky and Kazaa, like exclusively vertical spinners, which is like a vertical spinner is like my nightmare scenario. We ended up beating most of them, but it's still like the match I don't want to have. So going in to fight Kevin, one, I've always wanted to fight him since like his last couple seasons of BattleBots kind of really put Claw Viper on the map. And we definitely been compared in some ways. So I thought it'd be really fun to have like a full-on control bot match. Um, uh, so yeah, I was really looking forward to that fight. I thought we had a good chance of winning just because like the edge with the spinner, we would score some damage points. And I thought our ground game was pretty good. But his drivetrain is nearly twice as powerful as ours. So any like head-to-head pushing match, he for sure is going to win. But yeah, it ended up being a pretty scrappy fight as well. Like I think in the beginning, I kind of got the upper hand initially, But he kind of figured me out a little bit, and for most of the fight was controlling me. I was kind of on my back foot most of the match. And very similar to the Boreon fight, he had a moment where maybe one of his four wheels wasn't working or he was stuck or something. And I just saw he stopped moving for like a half second and just drove straight up behind him and hit him right in the back with our spinner. And our spinner wasn't even fully spun up, but his power switch is literally like everywhere on his robot is so heavily armored, but right on the back, it's like a little piece of UHMW and then his power switch. So I just kind of went straight into there when I saw the opportunity, and he stopped moving. So I still don't know exactly why he stopped moving, but given the power switch is right there, that probably has something to do with it. But yeah, had I not got that shot, we might not have come out of that match as the winner.
Yeah. It sometimes it comes down to that one thing or
Yeah.
what have you. Then the next fight, going into that, you're fighting Undertaker, who to
Mhm.
me is a very under the radar robot.
Yes.
I think that, it's really good. Obviously, it had just come off of beating Megatron, which is
Yes.
no easy feat.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if I was anybody, I probably would have had concerns based on that
Yeah.
alone. What was your approach, and how did you end up taking him out?
So Undertaker is you're very right in saying that they kind of fly under the radar, but are like a very top tier competitor. I mean, they've taken out some really, really solid robots like pretty easily. And I've seen them like nearly roof shot people in videos. So like they were honestly maybe on my like top three, top five list of robots I didn't want to fight. This is so low to the ground, it's so quick. The beater bar weighs a lot and it spins really fast, so it stores a lot of energy. So on paper, that's like a really bad matchup for me, fighting Undertaker. But if I'm being honest, like the competition moved so fast and we had so many fights, there was not a whole lot of thought before the fight going into like how exactly am I going to tackle this opponent? Because pretty much every second was just spent repairing in between matches and getting ready for the fight. But no, I think at the end of the day, it was just drive well, try to get to the sides, try not to get in, bad situations. And I think if I remember in the very beginning of this fight, I managed to get to his like side front corner and like immediately flipped him onto the wall. But he was able to climb down and kind of had a little comeback after that and got some hits on us. They ended up hitting like a kind of how our drivetrain works is we have like two motors up front with the wheels mounted directly to them. And then we have belts that go off the front wheels to the back wheels. And he hit one of the front wheels and totally like bent the shaft of the motor. So like one of our front wheels was like visibly just like spinning like this kind of instead of spinning, nice and concentric. So for most of that fight, our drive was like in pretty bad shape, but luckily everything's designed with enough clearance that we could still keep rolling. But yeah, at that point it was just a back and forth. Like we would get lifts, they would get hits. Eventually their spinner went down, and I think I flipped them over again at one point, and they did this like really cool move where like I was trying to do like a hammer saw shot, but they like pushed me into the wall while upside down and flipped themselves back over. It was a pretty cool move on their part. But at the end of the match, they just died. Like it was a really brutal back and forth, and maybe 2 minutes in, 2.5 minutes in, they just stopped moving. So it was really just a survival matchup, to be honest. I think had it gone to the judges, it would have been a split decision. I don't know for who, but it didn't get there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they always say you never want it to go to the judges. And
No.
that's pretty true, especially in a
Yeah.
situation like that, because you
Yeah.
just never know how it's going to be scored.
Yeah.
So got through that, get to the semifinals, and you're
Mhm.
facing Chonkiv, which I can
Yes.
say from like everybody that I talked to was the number one like feared robot. Everybody was like, Chonkiv is absolutely going to win. And
Yeah.
it seemed like you had the perfect robot to kind of implement a strategy to stop it,
Yeah.
which worked really well. The interesting thing I want to mention before I ask you to talk about the fight is that this was one fight where normally I like I'm not the biggest fan of stopping the house robot in most
Yeah.
situations because I'm very much a like, if you think that you have to do that to win the fight, then you need to, maybe do some more things with your bot. But in this case, I truly believe, and the announcer said this too, that I don't know that Chonkiv could have done anything based on those first initial engagements. I think it would have been really an uphill battle
Yeah.
for them. So I don't think you
Yeah.
doing that really
Yeah.
changed much. But I'm just curious to get your thoughts on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I get my mindset on like everything about this fight. Like, so going into this fight, we had like a massive time crunch because one, Undertaker did a lot of damage to us. So we had to swap a lot of parts. And two, changing to the plow, a non-spinner, just pure lifter configuration takes a lot of work. So this was the most work we had in the pits and probably maybe the least time we had. So we were just like grinding in the pit super hard. And like the plow, like this was like an old plow from the last event. I built a brand new chassis and I'd never even test fit it. It like barely fit on the robot. So we were like drilling holes bigger and doing all this horrible stuff to get it to fit on the robot. And then when it finally gets on, it's like scraping the floor too low. So I have to go with an angle grinder and grind like an 1/8 inch off the bottom of it. It was brutal getting that thing ready to go. But yeah, and once we got to the fight, I think you're probably right in that plow, like most 30 pounders have like maybe like a 2 pound plow in front of their beater bar or something. I think our plow weighs like 7 pounds. It is a massive piece of armor. I think maybe 6, 7 pounds. It probably weighs 2 to 3 times more than most armor packages on most 30-pound bots. And just the geometry of it, like their teeth are maybe an inch off the ground. And like we have this just nice, beautiful, shallow wedge angle that goes up for maybe the first 2 inches. So we knew like they weren't going to get a good bite on us unless they hit us somewhere else. They were just going to skim right off of it. So geometry wise, I was pretty confident. But yeah, once we had that first impact and they immediately flipped over, I was just like, oh, like I think we have this match. And then when they were trying to self-right, I'm just like, I'm just gonna flip them over again. Like I'm just gonna do this the whole fight if I have to. Just deflect one shot when they self-right, flip them back over, deflect a shot, flip them over. Um, uh, but yeah, I managed to flip them onto the wall, which is a kind of a pattern here. And it was the one position their self-righting arm couldn't get them off the wall. So in my mind, all I'm thinking about is that if we win this match, we have 30 minutes until the final match. And I can either let him go free and leave this match with potentially no robot, because I don't know if you saw a lot of his other fights, but if you do screw up, your robot is pretty much gone against Chonky. So, but yeah, so honestly, in the moment, the decision was like, I'm stupid if I don't do this, kind of, I'm like, if I don't do this, I'm an actual idiot because like they can get back down. And I felt relatively confident I could keep the fight going and win, but that is not a given with Chonky, no matter how much you feel it is. So I pinned the house spot and they couldn't get back down. And as far as like, honestly, before this event, I did not think much about if I would pin the house spot or not. I think my brother mentioned something about it, but I was just like, oh, I'm like, whatever. It didn't seem like it's something that would be a major factor. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like because most events you don't get an unstick. You're just stuck and you lost, pretty much. So the house spot is like a different thing. You're kind of given a second chance in a way, and it's like also an unstick attempt. It's not a guaranteed unstick. Like when I fought Boreon, they got stuck. I flipped him on the wall, and the house spot couldn't free him, so he ended up losing the match. So how the rules are, I felt pretty comfortable stopping it. I think the audience was mostly upset that the fight didn't go longer and wasn't more exciting, which is understandable. I mean, I don't blame anyone for that. But yeah, I don't know. I think if you can stop it, it's fair game. I think they can give the house spot higher ground clearance if they want, and this kind of doesn't become an issue anymore. Or they could just outright ban it. But as it was fair game. So
It's
yeah,
certainly a big topic of discussion, I
yeah,
think overall, since finals, just the sheer number of people that are kind of implementing that strategy now.
yeah,
Definitely there's some wondering of is the house bot kind of like a moot point at this point,
yeah. I
if
mean,
people can stop it.
I mean, I don't think it's a moot point because I'd only seen it stopped maybe a couple times before I did it. I maybe saw Jelly Baby do it in beetle weights, if I remember. And like Claw Viper flipped, or not Claw Viper, Red Strong flipped it over, which is a whole other thing. But and I think Kazaa might have pinned it before I did a couple times. But I really wasn't thinking about any of those scenarios. I was just like, wait, I can do this, and it's in the rules.
Yep,
And
it is
also
in the rules.
it's really not done often at all. Like I'd say unsticks probably have like an 80 to 90% success rate. And most of the time when it's not successful, it's just because the robot is so damn stuck. It's not because, someone stopped the house spot. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this maybe higher profile incident of it happening will inspire more people to or stop the house robot. But I don't know. Maybe it'll just lead to some more innovation on NHRL's part, which who knows what they'll come up with to avoid this.
Agreed. And I love reasons for innovation. So
Yeah,
I think that, that's it's a good thing overall.
yeah,
Now speaking of Kazaa Light, which
yeah,
yes, they have absolutely in the past stopped the house bot, but knowing the pedigree of that robot, because I think that it's very like it's not under the radar, but I mean, when you look at the bots, they're
mhm,
very basic looking.
mhm,
It's just, some forks and stuff like that. Of course, they have the flamethrower. That's always scary. But I think the scary part of that robot is the driving and the teamwork between Peter and Josh.
yeah,
So I feel like everybody was probably thinking about Kazaa Light going into this and what they might do against it. I know you said like in between you didn't really have a lot of time, but at any point,
yeah.
like before, maybe when you were doing research, did you think about what would I do against this? Because it is a very hard robot to fight.
Yeah, like I think I mean I have like a strategy for if I am fighting a multi-bot. And I fought several multi-bots in the past. And normally that strategy is like kind of choose one, attack that one, and just kind of keep on that same one. And then once you can disable that one, can I move on to the next one and hope that the second one can't inflict too much damage while you're attacking the first one. But in this fight, that kind of eventually went out the window. One, because both robots looked nearly identical, and the arena was in flames the whole time, so you could barely tell which robot you're attacking. But yeah, I don't know. It was kind of the same strategy as most fights. It was try to flip them over, get them flipped on the wall. I did manage to flip them both over, and I got one of them flipped on the wall at one point. But I think it was really the fire that made the difference in this match and made this match so much harder. Because about halfway through the fight, like in the very beginning, it was going okay, not great. But as we kind of sat in the flame for longer and longer, because they don't even have to be underneath you to be roasting you. They don't even have to be controlling the fight. When I'm pinning them on the wall, they are still roasting me. So there's kind of no way around it, which is what makes it so good. If say I'm dominating one of them, the other one's just sitting right next to me, lighting me on fire. So yeah, what really got me in that match was our drive belts and weapon belts. And drive belts are all rubber. I got timing belts on the drive and V belts on the weapon. And when they get real hot, they get soft, they expand. The drive belts both like flipped over because I'm sure they expanded a ton. And I saw one of them like ended up sideways in part of the match, then ripped off. So we're down a drive belt. We're really down two drive belts. And same with our weapon belt. The weapon belt like went sideways and totally jammed up just because it got so soft from all the flame. So about halfway through the match, our drivetrain was in pretty bad trouble and didn't really allow me to drive the robot how I would have wanted. And for a lot of the fight, the spinner was out too, because the weapon belt was just totally toasted. So I think the fire definitely made the difference in this match and inflicted. I think the electronics and all the body panels and stuff are perfectly fine. I could probably turn the robot back on and it'd work right now. But yeah, those three things, those belts really got us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people, they go to NHRL and they know that's one of the only places where flamethrowers can exist,
Yeah,
in these fights and stuff like that. And yeah, it definitely is a real problem and it's hard to prepare for and to,
yeah,
like shield yourself against, really.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but
We really didn't have a great fire plan because like going into this event, like there's so many robots to plan for. And you only have so much time to work on the robot. And like I did like a brand new chassis. I made a bunch of modifications based on stuff that happened at SCAR events, like drivetrain improvements, all these things. And like by the time you're finished doing all those things and have a working robot, it's like if there's extra time left, then you start thinking about configurations and things. And that time kind of wasn't there. And the robot looked almost identical for every fight, except for the Chonky fight. So I really didn't have configurations for specific opponents for the most part. But and I think to our credit, that ended up like I kind of had like a hierarchy of needs of things I completed on the robot before we went. And I think the really important things were completed because we ended up getting to the finals. We recovered from a bad loss, recovered from some really rough wins. So going back, I don't think I would do a thing differently. I think the robot worked fantastic for most of the event. But going into next time, we'll probably have some more time to really think about these matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more that you go and fight these different opponents, the more, familiar you are and kind of know what to expect if the matchup comes back again.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, getting to finals is a good day. It's
that's
a
a pretty
really
good day.
good day, and
Yeah,
I think that you have a lot to be proud of when you reflect on the performance in the event.
yeah,
Now you said next time, so I guess like my question was going to be 2026.
yeah.
Planning on coming back, what does that look like? Because I think, Lil Lash can be a very formidable opponent in the future for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely going back next year. When? I don't know exactly. I know our goal is to go, well, right now we're planning to go to, at least me and my brother, we're taking Little Ash to New Zealand to fight at the Endgame People's event and the Endgame Teams event in February. So that's the next thing we're doing with Little Ash. There's also like an upcoming SCAR event we might do, but we're definitely trying to go to New Zealand. And then once we're back from that, we can decide which NHRL we want to go to. Because I definitely want to go back again next year and try again for finals. But yeah, and maybe we'll get a dumpster in a qualifying event. That'd be awesome. We've done 2 NHRL events and have 2 finals, so maybe we could squeeze out a win.
Well, I certainly think
Yeah.
based on the performance at finals, that seems like a very strong possibility. But I'm sure that everyone's going to look forward to seeing you back at NHRL and seeing what Lil Lash is going to do in the future and at the New Zealand event, which I'm personally
Yeah.
excited for and definitely plan on doing an episode to talk about that once it comes around. So lots of exciting stuff.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And the great thing is this year at NHRL we won some prize money, which is cool. So going to Connecticut, not cheap. So I think that's a few trips right there. So I think we have to go back, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, the prize money is not shabby.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, great run. I think it was a great event overall. I mean, it is every year, but I think everybody just keeps stepping up their game. And I think that that's going to continue into next year as well. So, yeah, well. I appreciate you coming on. So exciting to talk about Little Lash and all of these amazing robots at finals. And yeah, so everybody stay tuned, like, subscribe, share, comment. Um, Happy New Year. We're almost at the end of the year. This is the last episode for the year. So much more to come in 2026. So stay tuned and keep supporting combat robotics.